Hey, what's going on? Doc Danny here with the PT Entrepreneur Podcast, and today I had a funny little story to share with everybody, and really highlight whether you're in the right organization or not, or maybe you need to do your own thing. So, I was stationed in Schofield Barracks, which is in Hawaii, for 3 years. Whenever I was active duty in the Army. And while I was there, I had a buddy who was a strength coach. He and I would, work together to teach speed and agility training and movement courses. And he's just like a super high level strength coach, just a fantastic person, and somebody that I'm fortunate enough to have as a friend today. And he called me yesterday, and he said, hey, Danny, guess what? We were right. And I go, well, what are you talking about, man? He goes, remember when we pitched the division on this human performance project that we had? Well, they're finally doing it, So the backstory to this is in 2011, 12 timeframe, me and this guy decided that we did not have enough resources. And essentially, I was the only physical therapist for a brigade, which is like 3,500 to 4,000 people. He was sort of a shared resource with the clinic, which was essentially through the hospital. And then there was another physical therapist at the other brigade that was there. So there really was only a couple of us for literally thousands and thousands of soldiers. Probably 10,000 total if you're looking at the coverage of everything we have between the aviation brigade and then the brigades that we were a part of, as well as the troop clinic that we were at. So, only a couple people for this massive number of soldiers. So we came up with a proposal to essentially bring on more assets, more people, more help. And these were going to be contract positions. So it's in the government system, it's hard to hire GS employees, government employees, or considered W-2 employees. There's a lot of red tape with that, but you can get along faster with contractors. So we put this proposal together and schedule a time with the division commander, who is a general and was actually one of my patients for months. Had hurt his chest in a bench press competition, and I knew him pretty well. I'd spent literally hours and hours individually with this person, and he was all about all the stuff I was doing. He was feeling a lot better. It was just a lot of the things he and I worked on just improved a lot of his performance, and he had a lot of miles on him. So I thought for sure, I said, man, we got this in the bag, dude. Like, and I know this guy. I feel strong about like our opportunity. We can save a ton of money because we were essentially sending a lot of people out into the civilian clinics every single month for injuries that were happening. Not only that, but we had reduced, percentages of people that were ready to deploy. And that was a big metric that we were tracked on. So anyway, we put this proposal together, and I think it's gone really well. We were only asking for a couple contracts. This literally would have been a couple $100,000 a year in contractors to save millions, basically, as well as improve our ability to get people ready to deploy. And we got denied. And I met with my division commander, the guy that was the general that was a patient of mine, the next day. And I distinctly remember this conversation where he said, listen, Captain Matei, I like the idea, but the Army's a big ship and it turns really slowly. And I was very frustrated. And I just remember like, sir, this makes no sense. Like, this is just such an obvious thing that we should do. I don't know if I want to be on a big ship like this going forward. And that's the first time that I really thought to myself, like, man, am I in the wrong place? As far as being able to, have any say over what was actually going to happen. Now, he called me to let me know that they'd finally put something together very similar to what we pitched them on like 13 years ago. Okay, so put that in mind. And he's been there ever since. He's a GS employee. He's not going anywhere. He's in charge of the training conditioning there and does an amazing job. But it was just so funny how excited he was. He was like, "We were right. We finally won." And I'm like, "Dude, this is over a decade later. This is crazy. Like how many things have changed in my life since then." But I bring this up not necessarily just to talk about how slow the military is to make changes and things, but to pose a question to you. Are you in the right organization, right? I think this is something to really keep in mind. And sometimes you think you are, and sometimes you realize that you're not. And maybe for you, coming out of school, you thought to yourself, yeah, you know what? I'm going to get a job with, name the big clinic chain. I'm going to rise up the ranks as a clinic director and then a regional director. And then maybe I can come on as, in the leadership team and whatever, right? And that all sounds great until you get involved in bigger organizations. And then you realize that these bigger organizations are just big ships that turn really slowly. Now, you may be totally fine with that. You may be somebody that's totally down for that and you like that. You may be the complete opposite. And you may be somebody that frustrates. And if you don't really know until you're in those environments. But I can promise you this, if you're in a bigger clinic organization, a bigger hospital organization, the likelihood that you're going to have a whole lot of say over what happens on a day-to-day basis with a clinic or clinics that you're involved in is a lot lower than if you're the person that's started those. And, for me, looking back on it, it's funny, I was talking to this guy and he was like, yeah, I always tell people, I have a lot of, young officers that come through and they're asking for career advice. And he said, don't do what everybody else is doing. Like, go against the grain. And he kind of brings up some of the things that I did, not intentionally go against the grain. I just was like, I thought this was maybe a better way of doing it. And I wouldn't necessarily ask for permission. I would beg for forgiveness after the fact. So maybe I wasn't the best fit for the Army. And maybe if that's you and you feel that way, maybe you're not the best fit for the organization that you're a part of. And I would rather be in a little boat, having complete control over where I'm going and what's happening. And maybe I have a higher risk of, the boat capsizing than a big boat, a big ship that I'm on. But I would rather be in that environment. And I think for a lot of people that are on the fence about entrepreneurship, if that's the right fit for them, that's normal. Most people in our profession do not go into this thinking that we're going to start our own thing. In fact, only 45% of our profession, 4 to 5% of our profession is self-employed. That's it. It's a very low percentage of healthcare field professionals that are self-employed. We're very, very low. Typically, you tend to be very risk-averse folks. But if you find yourself constantly running into this frustrations of not being able to change things, and you visibly feel and you see that there's things can be done a better way, or you want to be able to use your creativity to problem solve and do these different things, it might just be a sign that you're on the wrong boat. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already realize that to some degree, but maybe you're just too scared to make the change yet, right? And you don't really know what to do or what you should do, and that's fine too. I think it's just normal to feel unsure of what to do, but also don't just push that down. Like, I think that if you just ignore the fact that you have this calling that you need to feel like you need to do something else, you probably regret it if you don't try it. Even if you tried it and failed, I think that's better than not doing it at all, because at some point you're not going to be able to do that. And regret is, one of the worst things you can deal with, especially when you're too old to change something, right? So anyway, just want to share that. If you're in an organization and you feel like you're on a big ship that turns really slowly and it's frustrating you, I've been there. Don't wait over a decade for your ideas to come together if you really feel conviction about what it is that you want to do. And if you feel that way and you're not getting the creative outlet to change it, well, if you can't find the job of your dreams, sometimes you got to build it.